Alright, I thought I'd make a video just talking about my build, which I called the One Punch Man build for my Barbarian in Diablo 4. And it's basically just to hit stuff very hard in in the first or second shot to kill them, like, very quickly. And yeah, it works really well. It's like, it's been working for me anyway, and I'm level 78 now, and I can do like, I don't know what my max dungeon is or whatever. I've done it 28, and that's like been pretty easy. So I could probably do higher than that. But I was farming like level 25 to 24 ones, because those were like, I could do those in like fucking 8-10 minutes, really relatively quickly, just to farm experience. And it works really well. So let me start talking about it. Okay, so I have 2 points in this just literally because you have to have a basic skill, and 2 points to unlock the next thing. I've tried out all of them, and I felt that for this build specifically, lunging strike probably works the best. And then, like I said, I just have the second point literally just to have 2 points. It's almost like a blink strike, and it's really cool. I think it works to move between mobs really quickly, because the distance is about from here to here, or maybe a bit further, and you teleport to them basically, and it's just cool to travel around in combat. After that, Hammer of the Ancients is your core skill. You want to put in like 5 points. So I'll show you when I test. Well, I'll show you how the bolt works, but you kind of spam this like in between like lunging strikes. It's almost like a rotation, because I'm using, well, I'm gonna go down like this, and then I'll talk about the rest of the stuff. Hammer of the Ancients, and you want to get this. It deals additional damage for each like point of fury you had when using it. And with this build specifically, I found that I get fury very quickly, like almost like 0 to 100 in like a fucking second. So it works really well with this. The other one you can go with is this to increase damage by 30%. I haven't tried that. That could be like really good too, maybe. Yeah, maybe I should try that, because it says you deal 30% more damage for 5 seconds, but it's with everything. It's not just with Hammer of the Ancient. So that could be like really good actually. Whereas this only affects Hammer of the Ancient. So this might actually be better, but I'll try that later. I'm not going to do it now. And then that's it for there. Iron Skin, 1 point. It's very important on Torment or World Tier 4 to have Unstoppable. You're going to get stun locked. You need to have Unstoppable or some way of avoiding like instant death from being stun locked. That's why I have Iron Point. Before that, I was using Charge, but because you can use Charge to you become unstoppable while you're charging, so you can break unstoppable stuns and things, but then you just get stunned again. Whereas this makes you unstoppable for 5 seconds. The reason that is because I have this passive. Iron Skin grants unstoppable and 21% damage reduction, and that's why I added Iron Skin. And it works really well. Since changing to this, I've been cruising like through. I haven't really died to stuns as much. Like now, when I die, it's usually from a random thing I don't see, like an explosion or something from an elite. Or from poison damage, because poison damage is very like harsh in this game. Okay, and then other than that, more HP and damage reduction from elites. You need to be tanky. You're in melee range like constantly. So this is from an item. I like anything else. Oh, actually, yeah, this is from my boots. So I'll show the items just now. Movement speed. the faster you move, the faster you can like get to enemies. So it's self-explanatory. Leap is kind of the same thing, but I'm also using leap as a fury generator, which is amazing. You leap in, you immediately can use Hammer of the Ancients, or you can use lunge and then Hammer of the Ancients, and you can use like Hammer of the Ancients like basically 3 times at that point. So and then this one you have to learn. So the other one is enemies damaged by leap or slowed. You can try that, but honestly, like just getting the 40 Fury is very good. This one. So the reason I took points away from this is because I don't go berserk very often. The only way for me to go berserk is by jumping, and it's pretty good. I also have an item that a passive that makes me berserk. I'll show that just now. But yeah, so I put this in literally just for the berserking, because you can get extra damage from like paragons and stuff. That really like it gives you a lot more like damage, and also like just damage reduction and stuff. So I think it is good, and movement speed as well. Like when you leap, and then you get a little bit of a movement boost when you berserk. So I think that's pretty good. But this is probably like optional. You could probably change it for other stuff if you really think that you'd prefer other stuff. Okay, so next, this is the main damage thing, Death Blow. That's like the one punch skill. You can see I've got 11 ranks. That's from like items and stuff. And yeah, it's a great skill. It hits really hard. So I've got 2 charges. That's also from an item. I'll show it just now. Other than that, I got so this one also gives Fury, so more Fury generation, so you can spam more Hammer of the Ancients, which is really cool. The other one's this one, is Death Blow damage, as you get berserking. I could probably try that too, but I think the Fury generation for me is like very important, because not having Fury is just like shit. So then you can't use Hammer of the Ancients. Okay, so I got Pit Fighter. I think that's cool. It's just 9% increased damage and 6% less damage from distant enemies. This I got more crit chance against stunned and slowed and things. More damage to injured. So these are like just all basically just stacking damage. I'd say they're optional, but you could like kind of like all these passive ones are kind of like optional. You can go a different route. Like if you want to go Fortify, you can kind of do that too. Because here you can deal more damage with Fortify too. But I think this one adds a lot more damage per second. But that's just my opinion. I haven't really like worked it out and stuff. Okay, so my ultimate, Iron Maelstrom. I've tried Berserk. It felt really clunky. The cooldown's too long. If you have a lot of cooldown reduction, maybe Berserk is worth trying. But in my opinion, Iron Maelstrom is really good, especially with this final thing. With this build, you swap weapons all the time. You literally like rotate, like every like second to half a second, you rotate to a new weapon. So the cooldown for this goes down like relatively quickly. It's a free stun, basically, and a massive AoE like damage, sort of just damage. So yeah. And then I've got this one. I think this is cool because most of your damage comes from the two-handed weapons. I'll show now what I mean. And it's basically 15% increased critical damage. And critical damage is probably the most important stat for this build, because you want to punch things really hard and make them explode. So okay, then I got this, increase my maximum fury. That's literally just so I could get this, which is just whenever I swap weapons, I get fury. I took a point away from this and 2 points away from this, literally so I could put 3 points into this. So, and then my final thing is Walking Arsenal, because I think it's really good. You deal extra damage whenever you swap a weapon, and if you have all 3 bonuses, you get basically 25% increased damage, which is just really good, in my opinion. You could try berserking. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same. I think these two are like kind of the same, but because the build relies on swapping weapons constantly, I think it just works really well with this. Whereas berserking is a temporary thing, but this you can basically keep on permanently, so that's why I'm using that. Okay, so for Paragon, you want to like kind of just stack just whatever stats you need, really. I started just going up like here. I basically 20 like the physical damage like ones. I try get those. Uh, like you can see, I skipped like some random defensive ones. My glyph is while I'm berserking, I take less damage and I deal more damage when I'm berserking. So literally because of this, using the berserk skills might be like better because you can see it's like almost plus 60% while I'm berserking. But I'll show now, like I go berserk quite often because of one of my aspects that I'm using. The other glyph I'm using is up here. It's like, I was like struggling, so this one's not active yet, I'm busy leveling. But once it's active, it'll go active and it'll give me, whenever I swap weapons, it gives me a chance to critical strike, which I think is fucking great. That's why I got this. That's why I put this one in here. I just need to level it up. It's level, I think it's level 13 now, so I only need 2 more levels, so it's not that far away. And then I think it'll boost me because here's dexterity here, here, and here. That's 15. Is that enough? Yes, it is enough. Okay, cool. Then this will activate, and then I'll crit much more often, which I think is going to be like really good. And then the legendary thing I think I used was Weapon Masters, just more swapping, more fury. This one I'm not going to actually use. I chose this node, this page or whatever, literally for like all the berserking damage. So I'm just stacking berserking damage again. This I just added now. It's a defensive one. But I thought the one you gain 10% damage reduction against close enemies, I thought that was like cool when you get the bonus. But I need to level it up. There's dexterity and range. I just need to activate to make the radius a bit bigger. But literally, like, the main thing you want to do is just stack as much damage as possible. And then for the gear, which is probably the most important thing, other than the skills, in my opinion. So this one is really good. Your weapon mastery skills have an additional charge. That means you get 2 charges of death blow, which is probably your main damage in this build. It's just fucking good. Like, that's probably the best, like, based aspect that you can have for the build, in my opinion. All the other ones are more like utility and stuff, but that's a very important one. Iron skin, that's very important. I think that's just important across like the board for any build. You need unstoppable somehow. Iron skin I found was the best like one for me because I didn't want to use berserk or Wrath of the Berserker. I did try it though, like and I found that Iron Maelstrom like just worked much better for me. Critical strikes with core skills. This is really good. I've added this recently. You attack faster, and if you can attack faster, you can kill things faster. It's like basic basic maths. Okay, basic skills grant 20% damage reduction. That's really important too. Damage becomes really ridiculous. I was dying like quite a lot before I used this. But then on the same time, if you look at my pants, right? Pants are probably the most like tanky thing you can get for your character. Look at like how many like defensive buffs I have on these pants, right? 23% damage reduction from close enemies, 25% damage reduction from far enemies, 40% damage reduction while I'm injured, which is like below when you're like about there, I think. Which can like save you. And then the basic skill grants another 20% like damage reduction for 4 seconds. And then I've added 2 topazes, which 20% damage reduction while I'm controlled, impaired, or whatever. So it's just very like tanky. I think like if you just put like, it's just surprising. It surprised me that the pants had so much like just defensive stats on it, which it's crazy. So I don't know if that's across like all the classes, but it like definitely is for the barbarian. Let's see. Yeah, look. I think pants just in general, they just have damage reduction style. Okay, this one doesn't, but these other ones did. So I think it's just like pants just naturally have a lot of defensive stats. Okay, then I've got 100,000 steps. You probably don't need this. It's like I'm literally using it because of the skill swap damage that was on this item, and then the stun damage, because I do stun with. I have a chance to stun with my death blow because of this. Damaging an enemy with weapon mastery skill has a 40% chance to stun them for 2 seconds, and then I also Iron Maelstrom also has it stuns on the first hit. So I have some chance to stun things, and then the passive's really cool too. It automatically casts Ground Stomp, which stuns things when you trigger all 3 of your Walking Arsenal like abilities. So it's like it just works with the build, right? But like I said, you don't necessarily need it. It's literally just because it worked with my build, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Let me just use it. Okay, necklaces. I haven't really figured out my rings and necklaces as much, but this one gives me more damage reduction. And you see, like, it's stacked again. 22% damage reduction from close enemies, 25% damage reduction from distant enemies. And then the passive's critical strikes grant 12% movement speed. I haven't really felt that, but I see that's like the lowest possible roll it can get. So maybe if I had a higher roll, it would be better. But I might change that to something different, because it feels like it doesn't really proc that much, or it doesn't proc at all. I don't know. Like, at least I can't feel the difference when I do crit. So okay, this one's distant enemies have a chance to be stunned, and you deal 20% increased damage, or it's up to 40% increased damage to stun. I think that's really cool too. It's just more like damage, literally like more stun damage. And you want to try get like a high crit chance. I don't actually know what my crit chance is at the moment, but I don't think so. But look at my crit damage though, 400%. Where's my crit chance? There, 33%. So that's pretty low. I'd like to get it to about 50% if I can. But I think for now it's okay. Like I'm not struggling. Like I'm critting quite a lot. So I think this like depends also on your attack speed. If you hit more, like you're gonna crit more. So that helps with this other one that I have, the attack speed one. So, but I'd like to get that up, because you can see there my critical strike chance. It's only on 4%. I could get that to 7.5. And this one as well, 4.5. If I can get that to 7.5, that's an extra like 5%, 6% crit. So I can get this up to at least like 39 maybe. But we'll see. It costs a lot to re-roll stats. You see I don't have a lot of gold because I've been rolling like stuff and repairing stuff and making all the gems. It's like, but I'm going to sell all these items. You get the gold pretty quickly. Okay, and then we get to the weapons. Weapons are probably the most important. You want the swords. Swords have critical strike damage. I've tried an axe. The axe gives damage bonus to healthy enemies. It's garbage. It's not as good as critical strike damage. In my opinion, critical strike damage is the most important stat for this build. You want to hit really hard, and it's a way to hit really hard. So, and look, this sword gives me like 100 and almost 10% critical strike damage just from literally being there, right? And then these swords too, they give like another like 50% and another like 50%. So swords are very important. So the mace, you can't do anything. You have to have a mace. I don't think you can change this weapon to anything other than a mace. Okay, so then this is really strong as well. After spending 100 Fury, your next weapon mastery skill deals like 200% damage almost extra. Oh no, it's not extra. It's just 90% extra. It's strong. Like I'll show you just now, but it hits hard. This is another way for me to gain berserking. Every time I swap my weapons 10 times, I get 2.5 seconds berserking, which is yeah, it works quite often. And because I leap, I get berserk as well. Like I get berserking quite often, so that's why I am actually using the berserking damage and damage reduction stuff, because I do berserk quite often even without the berserk type effects stacked in my skills. I mean, okay, you have a 20% chance increased criticals against injured enemies. So this one is optional. I haven't found anything to replace it with, but I might change it depending if I find something better. But that's just what I'm using now, literally just to use something. And then Hammer of the Ancients quakes outwards, dealing 80% to 100, well, 60 to 100% of its damage. This is very important. You should put it on a two-handed weapon, because on a two-handed weapon it has double the effect. You can see there at the bottom, it says allowed item types and two-handed weapon power increased by 100%. So it's very important that it's on a two-handed weapon. Having it, Hammer of the Ancients, do like area of effect damage is very strong, especially against like large like hordes things. You obliterate them. Like literally obliterate. Hammer of the Ancients obliterates large mobs of enemies with this like passive or aspect. This is probably one of the best things for the build after like this. Or even this might even be more important in my opinion. Literally because you're going to spam Hammer of the Ancients. I'll show you just now. And anyway, that's my like build. So, yeah, let me go fucking kill things. Show you. Let me do like a dungeon or something. I suppose no, I don't want to do a one of these, because then it has all the weird aspects and stuff. So let me just do a normal dungeon. Let's do one I haven't done. Let's go to that one. Wait, let me just sell all my shit. Okay. So I'm just gonna use one of these potions. Doesn't really matter which one, but I see I got a crit damage one. I'm just using it for the experience gain, honestly. Okay, let's see how it goes. Yeah, I mean, there you go. It fucking destroys things. One Punch Man, motherfucker. No shield will stand between my might. Okay, there you go. See, so that's why I use Unstoppable. Because look, many elites appear, many elites disappear. Because Unstoppable makes like, it just makes the elites much like easier to deal with, in my opinion. And I mean, the cooldown's very low. It's like not even that high. So you can like go Unstoppable every like 10 seconds or so. And see, I'm Berserk like already. I don't even use Leap or whatever. And see, like the splash damage on the Hammer of the Ancients is fucking amazing. Especially if you have like something like that. But I mean, look how... I mean, I'm just auto-critting now with this. And see, I haven't like really ran out of Fury at all. Like I haven't had a problem like dealing with Fury. And I literally only use Maelstrom when I need to. Usually it's only for elites, but sometimes just to clear a room like really quickly. So generally what I do is I'll leap in, I'll use lunge, then I might use Hammer of the Ancients because I will have quite a lot of fury, or I'll use Death Blow to get more fury, and then I'll use Hammer of the Ancients. But the reason I might use Hammer of the Ancients first is because if you look at the bottom here, my first two skills uses my sword. My Hammer of the Ancients uses my bludgeoning weapon, and my lunge uses my dual wield. So when I'm leaping, it triggers this walking arsenal like thing. When I use lunge, it triggers that one, and when I use Hammer of the Ancients, it triggers that one, which activates all of them. So if I go leap, lunge, Hammer of the Ancients, then Death Blow, this one will reboost, and then I can go lunge again, Hammer of the Ancients, Death Blow, and kind of rotate like that to try keep these up, because then it's extra 15% damage. It makes a small difference, so, but I mean, it's kind of just the way it's almost like, it's like muscle memory now. I'm not really thinking about it, I'm just doing it. But you could do it in any way you want, but you generally want to try keep the walking arsenal up. See, so now Death Blow's like, oh, but this also has increased health, that's the problem. When Death Blow's on cooldown, that's one of my problems at the moment. It's not a massive like delay in damage or whatever, but you can like feel it a bit. So generally you don't want to use walking arsenal in a room, but if you just jump in, you don't want to use walking, Iron Maelstrom. You don't want to use that when you jump into a horde of enemies before using Iron Skin. So what I would do generally is, like I did it there, but I'll show you now. If I jump in, because what happens if you use Iron Maelstrom, it replaces all of your skills with Iron Maelstrom. If you get stunned during that time, you cannot use Iron Skin. So it's much better to use Iron Skin before using Iron Maelstrom if you think you're going to get stunned. If there's no enemies within range and the enemies like over here, you can use Iron Maelstrom just from like smacking them, because it has a massive range. But like I said, it's much better to use Iron Skin first if you are in a massive group of like elites and stuff, or like surrounded by you. You're surrounded by like a bunch of elites. Like I'll show you here. So I'm gonna jump in, use Iron Maelstrom, and then use Iron Skin, and then use Iron Maelstrom. And did you see? It froze me, but I was unstoppable, so it couldn't freeze me. And I found that's really helped me, because I've fucked that up before, where I jump in, use Iron Maelstrom, and then I get stunned, and then I get killed. And the things do a lot of damage, but even with like all my damage reduction, you can see I'm still taking damage, right? Because on Torment like level, the things just hit really hard. I mean, it hits me like much less hard now since I got the big boy pants. And also, since I put that passive on, which gives me an extra 20% reduction when I use a basic. I don't have any inherited healing. That's another thing I've been thinking about. Oh, I didn't talk about the gems. Let me talk about the gems. I'm stacking the topaz yellow gems, because it's automatically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's automatically 50% damage reduction when I get stunned or anything like that, which I think is very strong. And you're going to get stunned at some point, even with Iron Skin. There's some dungeons that just have stacks and stacks of elites, and they're going to stun you at some point. So I think that really helps, just for like survivability. I stack poison resistance in my rings, like jewelry, because poison damage in this game is overpowered. I don't know why, but it's like, it just feels overpowered, and since stacking like poison, I feel like I've survived a lot more. Damage resistance, I mean, poison resistance. And then for this, I had diamonds in the white gems, which increases my Maelstrom's damage by quite a lot, by like 70% or something, or 90%. So you can choose to go with that, but I've decided to go with this, the vulnerable. It increases critical strike damage to vulnerable enemies. So that's just stacking more critical strike damage, basically. And I'm busy learning. There's something. I don't know where it is on this. There's a thing that I was learning. No, man. I'm sure there was something that I was going to use that makes enemies. You know what? I think I changed it. There was a glyph. So I'll show you. There's a glyph somewhere here. It had something. Yeah, this one. When an enemy is damaged by you, they become vulnerable for 3 seconds. So, I've thought about using this. For every 5 dexterity purchase within range, you deal 1% increased damage. I want to use this glyph, but I'm not going to use it here. I'm using a more damage reduction here, because, like, you can see, I'm dealing enough damage, right? I'm hitting things really, really hard. I could probably like deal even more damage if I wanted to, but I don't think I need to at the moment. So, but I'll see how it changes like as I go. But at the moment, I'd prefer to be like more tanky and not constantly get one-shotted by stuff. But I want to use that glyph at some point, and I think that will work very well with these green gems, because then things will always be vulnerable. I do have a skill that's making things vulnerable. When I use Death Blow and then a Hammer of the Ancients, things become vulnerable as well. So I am already making things vulnerable, which I think is pretty good with the green gems. But I think you can use the white gems too if you want Maelstrom to be like more powerful. But that's like I said, that's like kind of up to you. But yeah, like the main thing for me at the moment is like I'd want to increase my movement speed a bit. But I think my movement speed is actually okay if I just skipped everything and just like literally run in and just go and fucking go apeshit and like skip all these enemies. Like I'm only fighting them now just to kind of show you. So I think my movement speed is actually not that bad. I think I can like kind of constantly kind of leap and stuff every like few seconds. I think one thing is like I'd like to get more skill reduction like type stuff. So I might look into like see if there's an aspect that does that, because I think if I can get my leap specifically, I could probably move like a lot faster through like the levels and just do them much faster. You see, Maelstrom stuns enemies, so that's like one way. That's why I'm using that extra damage to like stunned enemies. It works really well, in my opinion. Desecrated chambers. And you see, lunge is really cool because it's like a little blink strike. I've had like 1,000,000 damage crit with this, but I think that's if like everything's procced at the right time. It's like it's not gonna happen very often. I mean, you don't fucking need it. Like you can see, like I'm deleting these things. I mean, they're my level though, so... but I could probably do like quite a relatively decent like tiered like nightmare dungeon, honestly. But the main thing is like I'll start dying like I'm not gonna do this now. That's the one thing, like I want to get to a point where I don't die like very easily, but there's a chance of me dying. But if I play like relatively well, like I shouldn't die, and it gives me like kind of the best experience. Unnecessary risks.
Not ready yet.
There's one of those fucking purple things. I didn't see them until like I've already like wasted all my skills on the guy.
Must wait.
Boots. Ah, shit. I was hoping I could... I saw the thing on the map and I didn't look at the closed door. You see, I constantly use iron skin just before I use iron maelstrom. Because, like, you shouldn't be afraid to spam iron skin just because you think you might get stunned. You don't have to use it, like, constantly for... I used it prematurely there. Doesn't matter. Yeah, because the cooldown of iron skin's like quite low, right? So it's... I ran out of my death blow. It's fine. But see, even without death blow, your ancient hammer, hammer of the ancients, hits quite hard. So it's like... I see there at the back some of that shit. So this is one way to die from, is that explosion. It does a ton of damage. I think it's fire damage. I think that's why it does so much damage. So I think my fire resistance is probably not very high. And I've died from that before, like literally just from the explosion. Not from these waves as much. It's literally just from the explosion. Okay, let me go get that. I think it's the only one I missed this time. There at the back. There we go. Oh, shit. I found the bosses are actually easier than some of the elites, honestly. But let's see. Resurrected Malice. This one. You see that? I one-shotted him. What the fuck, man? One Punch Man! Oh, there you go. That's literally... Oh, fuck, that's funny. I was like saying, oh, the bosses are sometimes easier than elites, and there, like, I just fucking proved it. One shot. Oh, God. Anyway, cool. So that's probably it for my build video. I don't know if I've missed any, like, information, but it's, like, I think it's a really cool build, and I think people should try it. Like, I see lots of people try using Whirlwind, and I know the Whirlwind build is probably good because it was good in Diablo 3 and it was good in Diablo 2, it's good as well, and like I think Whirlwind will always be a good build, but this to me, like I'm enjoying this build a lot more because I feel like I'm actually, because there's like a rotation more than just holding in like right click or something to spin. So if you're bored of Whirlwind, or if whatever build you used, I think try this. I think it's very good in my opinion. And I've been using it since like probably like, I mean, not these items. These items, I've been kind of crafting it since about level 24 or so. Before that, I was using a Thorns build, which I might want to try at some point. One thing I don't like about the game is that you can't save builds, from what I can see. and like gear and stuff, like loadouts. I hope they add that in one of the like patches or expansions, seasons or something, because I would love to just be able to swap to a different build, you know, without like, or just having like an extra like build tree, skill tree thing that I can just swap to or activate if I want to just swap, you know. Oh, the other thing I didn't talk about is expertise. I'm using the X one, which says 15% increased damage to vulnerable enemies, and 10% increased critical strike chance against vulnerable enemies. So I'm using that one. I was using this one, which is a lucky hit one that gives you Fury, and then you deal 15% increased critical strike damage to stunned and vulnerable enemies while berserking. So, because it says while berserking, that's why I changed it, because I would have preferred it if it's just permanent, then I would probably use the mace one. I haven't checked, you deal more to bleeding, I don't really do bleeding damage. Crowd control enemies grant attack speed. That could be really good, because I've seen that the attack speed gloves that I've added recently has really been helping me. So, up to 10% chance to gain berserking for when you hit a stunned enemy. I don't stun that much. I have a stun, but it doesn't stun that. Like it's not like really. It's like more like a secondary effect rather than like part of my build. So. Anyway, cool, shot. Thanks a lot for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you're going to try out the build. Tell me what you think, and if you can improve it or whatever. But it's like, it's not set in stone yet. It's like, I'm still experimenting with like different things. Like I did experiment with like an axe. I think I've said that already, but the axe gives you damage to healthy enemies. I thought, I want to hit them once and they die, so if I deal increased damage to healthy enemies, surely that's better than crit damage, right? It's not. It's such a small window. You end up damaging enemies more than like 20 to maybe 25% just from like the splash damage from Hammer of the Ancients a lot of the time. And then you deal, your damage drops off immediately. So trust me, swords is the way to go. Stack critical strike damage. It's the best thing for the build, in my opinion. And I mean, the other thing you can try is pole arms, but because that's for increased damage to injured enemies. I don't know if you can only do that, I think, as a two-handed thing. So at most you'll get like plus 50% damage to, but you'll lose out on like an 50% critical strike damage. So I don't know if it's worth it, but it might be worth trying. But I think I've already got like damage to injured enemies. There, 150%. So it's not super high. And it would be like 200% if I tried a pole arm. So, but then my critical strike damage would be only 350. So, I don't know. Or maybe 350. Damage while berserking, see, it's not that high either. So, most of my damage is actually coming from my critical strike damage. So, yeah. Even damage versus stun's not that high. So maybe that's not that worth it, honestly. Like, maybe I should try... I don't know. I don't know. Just from what I found, like this, why is my critical strike chance? Why is it higher now? Because I drank the potion. Because I drank this elixir. Where is it now? I only had the one. Oh well. Cool, shot. Thanks a lot for watching. Sorry for me rambling on there at the moment, at the end. And yeah, hopefully enjoy it. Hopefully try it out, and I'll check you on the next one. Shot and cheers.